This man is an American soldier who returned home after the Vietnam War. He had faced extremely brave Vietnamese soldiers on the battlefield, and because of that, his mind was deeply affected by everything he experienced. But when he finally returned home, he was harassed and brutally mistreated by the very police officers of his own country. Those were people who had never stepped foot in Vietnam. They could never understand how terrifying the scars left behind by war truly were. Facing these abusive officers who used their power against him, what will Rambo do to escape this unfair treatment? Let us find out together in this movie. At the beginning of the movie, former soldier John Rambo, after leaving the military, travels to a small countryside area to look for an old friend. He even takes out an old photo of himself with his teammates back in Vietnam. But the woman tells him that his friend has passed away, losing his life to cancer caused by Agent Orange, the chemical that was dropped during the Vietnam War. After hearing the news, Rambo feels completely alone because it seems like he is the only one left in this world. All of his close brothers from the battlefield are already gone. After that, he continues walking toward a nearby town. On the other side, Will is an extremely arrogant sheriff. The moment he sees Rambo, he immediately dislikes him. This man pretends to be kind by offering Rambo a ride, but in reality, he only wants to kick him out of his town. Because he simply does not like returning soldiers like him. Will drops the young man off on an empty road and drives away. However, things do not end there. Rambo is extremely hungry, so he decides to return to town to get himself a proper meal. But trouble refuses to leave him alone. The sheriff turns his car around again and continues making things difficult for him. He asks for Rambo's identification and orders him to put both hands on the vehicle for a search. Seeing that the other man has a gun, Rambo does not want to create unnecessary trouble. The sheriff finds a military knife on Rambo. Of course, after that, he immediately arrests Rambo and takes him back to the police station. As soon as he arrives, he is welcomed by a violent police officer who is already holding a baton, ready to threaten him. It seems like these officers with nothing better to do enjoy causing problems for innocent people. Rambo has done nothing wrong, yet he is arrested for no real reason. When he sees the metal bars on the window, the horrifying memories from the Vietnam battlefield suddenly come rushing back. After the officers see his military ID, they force him to give his fingerprints and admit to a crime he never committed. "I'll break your arm if you don't put your hand down, understand?" Sometimes, even staying out of trouble still brings trouble to your door. The sheriff announces that Rambo will spend 90 days in jail and pay a $250 fine, simply because he refused to follow the sheriff's attitude. "If you enter my town, you live by my rules." Right after that, the sheriff orders his men to spray Rambo with a high-pressure water hose. When Rambo takes off his shirt, the terrifying scars covering his body are revealed. Surviving Vietnam with scars was already lucky because many others never made it back home. The officer hits Rambo once again, but they do not stop there. They continue spraying water directly at him while the other officers outside laugh and enjoy watching. After that, they suddenly act kind in a strange way by bringing a razor to clean up Rambo's appearance. But if he refuses to cooperate, you already know what might happen next. These aggressive actions directly trigger Rambo as painful memories from the past. The officers take advantage of his unstable mental state while trying to shave him. But the man holding the razor looks more like he wants to hurt him rather than help him shave. At that moment, Rambo finally loses control. He cannot endure it anymore. Rambo kicks away the officer holding the razor. Then he goes after the other cruel officers. "That's enough. I've been holding back for too long. These officers are used to living comfortably and abusing their power. So how could they possibly be a match for a real combat veteran like Rambo?" In just a short time, every single one of them is taken down by him. After that, Rambo steals a vehicle and escapes, while the police immediately jump into their cars and chase after him. But these guys are still far from his level. Rambo drives with incredible skill, even drifting through difficult roads like a professional racer. The sheriff still refuses to let this go. He aggressively drives after Rambo, ignoring every dangerous road condition. He thinks catching this difficult young man will be an easy job, but once they reach the rough mountain roads, his oversized police car completely flips over. He continues sending more police vehicles after him, determined to capture Rambo no matter what. After driving for a long distance, Rambo finally abandons the vehicle and escapes into the mountain forest. However, Sheriff Will is furious and shouts that he will get revenge for this humiliation. Rambo completely ignores him. He quickly runs toward an abandoned truck to collect useful supplies. He puts on extra clothing to keep his body warm. Rambo knows that very soon, even more police officers will come after him. At this moment, Will is still extremely confident. He sends police dogs to track Rambo's scent. A group of officers equipped with heavy weapons prepare for action. Above them, A helicopter also provides support from the sky. They believe that with such a powerful force, catching any target will be simple. But the sheriff has no idea that this foolish decision will become something he regrets forever. Rambo runs toward a dangerous cliff. Unfortunately, he realizes that there is no path forward anymore. Outside, the police have already discovered Rambo's footprints. When there is no other choice, Rambo decides to take the risk and climb down the cliff. Just when it seems like he has finally escaped the chase, things are not that simple. The police helicopter arrives and discovers Rambo trapped on the side of the cliff. Instead of bringing him back to the station, the officer decides to shoot and kill Rambo. But his aim is terrible, and he cannot hit the target at all. The pilot tells the officer that Rambo is already trapped there, and sooner or later they will capture him. But this man stubbornly wants to kill Rambo, just to protect his own pride. Knowing that if he does not jump, he will eventually be shot, Rambo sees the river below and decides to take the ultimate risk by throwing himself down. Luckily, several tree branches break his fall. He survives, but his arm is badly injured with a deep wound. The old officer still refuses to give up his revenge and orders the helicopter closer, continuing to fire at Rambo. 1 or 2 shots might be something he can tolerate, but constantly shooting at him is just too disrespectful. You keep missing every shot, yet you still want to continue? Come on, old man. At this moment, Rambo is truly angry. He picks up a large rock and uses all his strength to throw it at the helicopter windshield. The aircraft loses control, causing the old officer to fall from the helicopter. And just like that, his revenge plan comes to an end. Rambo is smart enough to collect the officer's weapon for protection. A short time later, the sheriff and his men arrive at the scene. Seeing his teammate gone, the sheriff becomes extremely emotional. Meanwhile, after Rambo finishes treating his wound, he walks out and tries to make peace with the police. I don't want to hurt anyone. That man fell because of an accident. It wasn't he because of me. But the police above have no interest in listening to his explanation. They have superior weapons and numbers, believing that because they hold authority, they are the ones who decide everything. After that, the sheriff continues gathering even more resources to hunt Rambo down. When the higher authorities hear about this, they immediately disagree and explain that Rambo is an American war hero who served in Vietnam and even received military honors from the government. The nearby officers are shocked after hearing this. They all freeze, unable to believe what they just heard, because they know that anyone who fought in Vietnam and still managed to survive is definitely not an ordinary person. Ignoring all the warnings from his superiors, the sheriff has already become obsessed. He swears that he will not stop until he captures Rambo. On the other side, Rambo has already sharpened wooden sticks and prepared traps. He is about to show these overconfident officers what real combat actually looks like. As soon as the police officers get closer to Rambo's location, they see a shadowy figure moving in front of them. The old officer leading the group immediately releases 2 hunting dogs to attack. But all they hear in response are 2 gunshots. Before he can even understand what happened, the officer is shot in the leg. The other police officers behind him quickly drop to the ground and start firing back at Rambo. But honestly, these guys are just shooting at empty space. How can they hit the main character when they cannot even see him? These officers are only used to shooting at targets during training. Now they are facing a real combat veteran who survived the Vietnam battlefield and mastered survival skills in the jungle. The difference between them is simply too big. Luckily, Rambo decides to spare them. He gives the officers time to treat the old man's injury because he wants them to understand the danger and leave before things get worse. After fighting in Vietnam, Rambo knows exactly how to use the forest as his advantage. He applies the combat experience he learned on the battlefield. As soon as one officer walks past him, Rambo attacks his leg with a knife. The man falls down and screams in pain. The others hear the desperate screams and quickly call each other for backup. One officer slowly approaches the area, but the living bush suddenly jumps down and takes him out. Another officer also screams loudly, begging his teammates for help. The sheriff rushes over and fires a shot at Rambo, but he almost hits his own teammate behind him instead. Nearby, another officer is running through the forest when a trap suddenly pierces his leg. He also starts screaming for help. The sheriff keeps shouting while searching for his missing men. Then he sees one of his officers tied up to a tree, looking extremely painful. He walks over to save him, but suddenly the living bush appears and places a knife against his neck. Rambo begins to speak. I could have taken all of you down, but I wanted to show you what a soldier who fought in Vietnam is capable of. Do you know what a living bush means? Have you ever heard about real jungle combat skills? I was there, and I learned these skills. And now you better leave. If you come after me again, you will face the consequences. Rambo spares his life. After this incident, a police force hunting one man ends up being defeated by that same person, shocking the entire country. Soon after, the National Guard is sent to the town. They wonder who this man really is and how he managed to cause so much trouble for the police. Even after suffering a major defeat, the sheriff still refuses to give up. At this moment, a military colonel named Troutman arrives. He was Rambo's former commander during the Vietnam War. Colonel Troutman says he wants to take Rambo away. He sees him almost like his own son. But the hot-headed sheriff immediately refuses and gets angry. He says he will capture Rambo and take him down himself. After hearing this, the colonel can only smile at the sheriff as confidence. He says, "I'm not here to protect you from Rambo. I'm here to protect Rambo from you." The colonel continues, "You have no idea who you are dealing with. Do you know how dangerous mines and traps on the battlefield can be? Some explosives are hidden so carefully that they are almost impossible to detect. You might think you successfully disarmed one, but just one wrong move could trigger an explosion. Even after surviving that, you could walk away, go to a river to wash your hands, and still step on another hidden mine." After that, the police and the colonel arrive at the command camp. Troutman advises Rambo to surrender, promising that he will help protect him. But this tough soldier refuses to surrender to the police. Maybe after everything he experienced on the battlefield, Rambo has developed the mindset that once he enters a fight, he will never give up easily. Because of his phone call, the sheriff manages to locate Rambo's south hiding place. He prepares a large number of police officers and National Guard members to surround and capture him. Just as he promised, not long after, around 200 heavily armed officers move toward the location where Rambo is hiding. Meanwhile, as Rambo is moving to a new location, a young boy who is out hunting suddenly discovers him. Rambo quickly takes the boy down and throws his gun away, showing that he has no intention of hurting the kid. But the young boy, who has never experienced anything like this before, immediately panics and calls for his father. Because of that, Rambo's location is discovered. With nowhere else to go, Rambo decides to return to the mine and defend himself there. The police do not waste any time. The moment they find him, they immediately open fire. What they want now is to bury this entire situation and make it disappear. Whether Rambo survives or not no longer matters to them. These inexperienced officers outside are holding M16 rifles and firing nonstop at Rambo. But taking down a highly trained soldier like him is definitely not that simple. Rambo is the type of person who says he does not want to fight, but his survival skills are on another level. He immediately responds with extremely accurate shots. Every time Rambo appears, he only fires a few rounds before quickly changing to another position. When the police see how precise his attacks are, almost hitting every target perfectly, they can only stay down and protect themselves. Some of them are even so scared that they freeze in place. The officers outside want to finish the mission quickly and go home, so they decide to fire a rocket directly into the cave. Rambo senses the danger and quickly moves away before the explosion takes him out. A short time later, Sheriff will arrive with Colonel Troutman by helicopter. But seeing the destroyed area makes the sheriff extremely angry. He orders his men to dig through the entire mountain if necessary to find Rambo's body. If they cannot find him, they might as well forget about having an easy future in this job. The sheriff wants to personally capture Rambo and make him pay. Colonel Troutman knows exactly how capable Rambo really is, so he simply smiles confidently and leaves without saying anything. Meanwhile, the sheriff keeps complaining because he still has not defeated Rambo. At the same time, deep inside the dark mine, Rambo is still alive. He tears a piece of cloth from his shirt and lights it on fire, trying to search for anything useful for survival. After finding an old container of leftover fuel, he tears his shirt into several smaller pieces and soaks them, creating a simple homemade torch. The next important thing he needs to do is find where the airflow is coming from. But the tunnel is extremely slippery, causing him to fall into a pool of water. His wound opens again, and the painful feeling immediately returns. However, this only makes Rambo stronger. Because of his experience fighting in Vietnam, moving through a dark and narrow underground tunnel does not make him panic. Standing between life and death, he has no other choice except to keep moving forward. However, this wet environment is also the home of many rats. This time, Rambo falls directly into their territory. The hungry rats immediately rush toward him. But these little guys are still far from being able to stop Rambo. After getting through this difficult path, he wraps another piece of cloth around himself and keeps going. With unstoppable determination, luck finally smiles at Rambo as he manages to crawl out of that dark underground tunnel. But outside, there are still too many police officers around. He has no choice but to return to the tunnel and hide a little longer. By the end of the day, the police finally become tired and give up the search. Rambo waits for the perfect moment and jumps onto the last military truck. Using his knife, he quickly takes control of the driver. After traveling for a short distance, Rambo directly kicks the young man out of the vehicle. The driver quickly reports to the police that Rambo is still alive. This news makes the sheriff extremely excited. He immediately orders the closest police car to chase after the military truck. But the sheriff has seriously underestimated that military vehicle. As soon as the police car gets close, the officers start pulling the trigger and opening fire. Luckily, the military truck is equipped with bulletproof glass, so these officers keep shooting but cannot even touch Rambo. Rambo does not have much to offer, except a little challenge to test whose vehicle is stronger. Let us see which one is tougher, your car or mine. After saying that, he immediately steps on the gas and charges straight forward. And the result is that the police car flips over, lying on the road with smoke coming out everywhere. However, escaping one problem only leads to another. The police have already set up a roadblock on the other side of the bridge. But these guys are still underestimating the anger of a trained soldier. Rambo increases his speed and smashes straight through the police cars blocking the road. The officers can only continue firing and watch him disappear. That night, Rambo enters deep inside the town. He crashes into a nearby gas station. After that, he removes the M60 machine gun from the back of the truck. He throws a flame and burns the entire vehicle. The gasoline leaking onto the ground quickly creates a massive explosion. The loud blast and intense heat wake up the peaceful town. Who could possibly imagine that all of this destruction was caused by just one man? The sheriff immediately sends the entire police department to help evacuate and rescue the people. But the continuous explosions cause the officers to run away in panic. The sheriff knows that sooner or later, Rambo will come looking for him to end everything, so he loads his weapon and prepares to face him. The colonel sincerely advises him to let go of this personal conflict, but the sheriff completely ignores his advice. Because until now, Rambo is the first person who has ever challenged his authority. To him, something like this can never be allowed to happen again. A short time later, Rambo arrives outside the police station. The first thing he does is walk around and carefully observe everything. All of the police officers have been sent to handle the fire at the gas station, so now only the arrogant sheriff remains inside the building. Rambo fires his weapon and destroys the electrical system, causing all the lights to go out. The sheriff freezes, completely confused about what is happening. Down below, Rambo sees a gun shop nearby, so he fires another round and destroys the store's lighting system. Taking advantage of the moment while the sheriff is still shocked, Rambo sneaks inside and throws boxes of ammunition and weapons all over the floor. Then he carefully picks up some gunpowder and creates a fuse. After finishing his preparation, he walks outside and fires at the fuse. The sound of continuous gunfire immediately attracts the sheriff's attention. Very quickly, the building cannot withstand the destruction and explodes completely. Meanwhile, Rambo has already hidden himself in a corner, carefully watching everything. He sees the sheriff's head appearing on the rooftop. In the darkness, Rambo moves across the floor like a ghost. Before the sheriff can even react, Rambo shoots him in the leg. He fires a powerful burst of bullets from underneath the floor. Losing his balance, the sheriff falls down from above. Even after everything, he continues challenging Rambo, telling him to finish the job. Rambo is about to use the M60 to end everything, but suddenly Colonel Troutman appears and tells him to stop. Troutman says that he will protect him and arrange a helicopter to take Rambo somewhere else. While they are still talking, a gunshot suddenly comes flying inside. The colonel immediately signals the police officers to stop shooting. "Look around, Rambo. You have destroyed half of the town." Rambo responds with anger, saying that this is his own personal war. "There are people out there who will never leave soldiers like him alone. When I came back to my own country, I saw those people everywhere. They called me a killer. If only they had been on the battlefield in Vietnam, they would understand what a living nightmare really looks like." He says that sometimes he wishes he could return to the battlefield in Vietnam, holding a weapon and fighting beside his brothers again, driving million-dollar military vehicles. But after coming back to America, he cannot even find a normal job. The world he returned to feels completely unfair. Then Rambo tells the colonel about the death of his best friend, Danforth. His friend was approached by a young boy offering to shine his shoes, but the box that boy carried suddenly exploded right in front of him. Pieces of his friend were left on Rambo. That horrifying memory has haunted him for the past 7 years. He has never been able to talk about this pain with anyone until this moment. Troutman never realized that his soldier had carried so much suffering inside for all these years. He hugs Rambo tightly, trying to tell him that everything is finally over. The colonel takes Rambo away from all this chaos, giving him a chance to start a new life where he no longer has to face rejection and discrimination. And that is the end of the movie. The American soldiers who fought in the Vietnam War were sent into a conflict where many of them carried deep emotional wounds long after returning home. As for Rambo, everything he experienced pushed him close to a complete mental breakdown. On the other hand, he also gained incredible survival skills and combat tactics from his time on the battlefield. And that brings this movie recap to an end. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.